Governor, it's a great pleasure for us to be here today. It's a great pleasure for me. It's a great pleasure you have accepted to be part of our series. We confirmed that we started in last April to improve the global financial architecture. To discuss the next narrative to improve the global financial architecture, and of course the importance of the accelerations of the discussion towards central bank digital currencies and digital money. If you agree, what I would like to do is maybe to ask you one or two questions related to the domestic economy. One question to see the lessons so far we can learn from this episode for the global financial architecture, and we will shift the second part of the discussion that will be moderated by Musman Mendeng, by the two Accenture, to the discussion towards the way to improve payment system, financial inclusion, new thinking toward digital currencies, and of course, the Philippines is an important recipient of remittances. The government, as you know, major advanced countries have been implementing a very active and unprecedented way toward this pandemic in terms of policy response, in terms of monetary and the fiscal side. As an emerging market, what has been so far the policy response in terms of its impact? Did you have buffers before the crisis that were used, as most of the emerging markets were very comfortable in reserve? Did you think it was enough? Can you do more? This crisis showcase the importance. It reiterates the fact that the IMF is currently at the center of the global financial safety net. We saw two episodes in April in terms of the emerging markets. The emerging market, we're dealing with a major capital outflow for almost $100 billion. In April and May, and now we saw the reversal, that a lot of emerging markets were able to bring in the national capital market. It doesn't mean in a way that we saw a couple of countries who relied to the IMF on building buffers, such as accessing to flexible credit lines. But this area, maybe in thinking about the stability of the global financial system, that IMF should really become a truly international lender of last resort. If this is the case in terms of crisis prevention and crisis resolution, it's maybe an opportunity that you can see Allô? Tu m'entends?
Oui, je t'entends. Salut Marc.
Ça va?
Tu m'écoutes?
Ouais, parfait.
Tu veux que je mette une cravate?
Écoute, pas nécessaire, j'en ai mis une parce que ça faisait longtemps.
Oh,
Bon. Écoute, on a beaucoup de monde hein, qui participe. Hein.
c'est super, c'est super. Écoute, moi j'ai du mal avec ton vidéo là.
Ouais,
J'espère que toi tu me vois bien.
ouais, je te vois bien, ouais, je te vois un petit peu flou. Laisse-moi voir le. J'ai le bien.
Ok.
Ouais.
Là tu es frozen pour
Là, je
moi.
te
Je te
vois
vois
bien,
pas
là.
du
Là,
tout.
je te vois bien.
Ah ouais, ok. Moi je te vois pas. Là c'est. Mais bon, enfin je te vois, mais tu es frozen.
Ah
Mais
bon?
c'est peut-être de mon côté, hein.
Ouais, j'ai l'impression que. Attends, on va voir parce que j'ai l'impression qu'ils arrivent. Allô? Mince.
Hi, Mark. Hi, Usman.
Oh,
Hey,
How are
good
you
morning.
doing?
good afternoon.
Good
Yeah, good
afternoon and good
afternoon.
morning.
How are you?
We're good. We're good. So you're in early. I thought you'd be
Well, you know,
starting the
it's like
before.
being on stage. You know, you would like to be prepared.
So we're all set. Everything set on your end?
Yes, I think everything is set. Usman just joined us also,
Mhm.
and in 10 minutes, you know, we should have all the participants joining. We have a very eclectic group of people who will be joining. You know, other central banks. I just saw governor of central bank, you know, from other countries will be joining. So it's nice. It's a good group of people.
All right. We're all excited. So let's just give it about 12 minutes.
Oh yeah, no problem, no problem.
All right. Thank you. I'll
Thank you.
just put you on
Oh.
my microphone.
Yeah, yes.
Do you want us to wear a mask too to be safe?
That's okay. The governor wouldn't be mask, so
Okay.
just me.
Very good. So Usman, yeah, so we will do as we discuss, okay? So j'ai deux questions en fait moi de mon côté sur l'économie des Philippines, tu vois, quelle a été la policy responses, les impacts, tu vois. Et une deuxième question qui fera la transition entre le débat sur la monnaie, ça sera comment, si tu veux, en tant que gouverneur de banque centrale, comment il voit les moyens d'améliorer l'architecture financière, et particulièrement en essayant de dire, écoutez, on a vu deux épisodes de la crise, un épisode de capital outflow, et maintenant, de plus en plus de pays émergents qui ont la possibilité de nouveau d'emprunter sur les marchés financiers. Et on a vu que le FMI était at the center of the global financial safety net. Tu vois? Donc, est-ce qu'il n'y aurait pas ici une discussion à avoir au niveau international de transformer le FMI comme prêteur en dernier ressort? Tu vois, c'était le débat des années 90 avec Stanley Fischer. Moi, j'étais en train de me dire, ça peut être pas mal parce que ça permettrait de dire, en fait, après de faire la transition sur CBDC, Digital Money, Financial Inclusion. Mais je pense que ça peut être pas mal d'avoir une vision d'un gouverneur d'un pays émergent, de dire oui, effectivement, parce que AMRO n'a pas été utilisé, il n'y a aucun eu de RFA, ils n'ont pas été utilisés, tu vois.
Ah bon? Ok.
Donc, je me dis, ça peut être une bonne façon de penser big picture.
En fait, ou bien, enfin, ce que tu veux, ce que tu peux, enfin, on peut dire, la crise a encore une fois démontré en fait les déficiences du système.
Exactement.
Et alors il y a différentes dimensions. Il y a la dimension safety net, mais il y a aussi la dimension en fait distribution des liquidités, etc. Et donc peut-être c'est là la transition vers le CBDC. On peut dire est-ce que ça a rendu plus urgent en fait de repenser aussi peut-être les instruments des banques centrales, et dans ce contexte la digitalisation, est-ce que ça peut apporter à renforcer le système, peut-être de ce côté. Donc,
ouais, ça peut être pas mal. Ouais. Parce qu'en fait, on est dépendant du hard currencies, tu vois. Donc, quelle est la solution? Quels sont peut-être les instruments qu'on pourrait… ouais.
Oui, et un peu, ça lui donne une possibilité de dire, il y a des facteurs extérieurs, hein, le système, le fonds, etc. Mais il y a aussi des facteurs intérieurs que les banques centrales elles-mêmes contrôlent. Et une dimension, c'est peut-être avec la digitalisation de rendre plus efficace l'implémentation de politiques monétaires et de donner de nouvelles possibilités aussi à l'échange international. C'est peut-être dans ce contexte un peu. Ça va?
Ouais, ça va, parfait, ouais. Qu'est-ce que je voulais dire d'autre? Je pense que le gouverneur de la Banque centrale d'Afrique du Sud, je pense qu'il aimerait bien faire partie de la série.
Ok, super.
Donc, je vais essayer de
Laetitia.
l'organiser assez vite et je te dirai la date.
Super. Et il faut que tu me donnes aussi l'heure du séminaire le 25.
Oui. Écoute.
Parce qu'on n'a toujours pas pu circuler le.
Ouais, parce que si tu veux, il y a l'histoire du WebEx, tu vois, versus Zoom, tu sais.
Ouais. Et
Donc,
ça, tu feras ça seul ou avec la chambre?
non, ils ne peuvent pas le faire,
chamber?
la chambre de commerce. Je leur ai demandé hier.
Le 25 non plus?
Non, ils ne peuvent pas parce qu'ils ont un événement.
Ok. Bon.
Donc, j'essaye.
Alors, qu'est-ce qu'on fait avec WebEx? Donc,
d'avoir les informations pour s'abonner, mais ça a l'air un peu plus compliqué que Zoom, tu vois.
Ah ouais. Oh là là.
Mais alors,
Et pourquoi ils peuvent pas accepter le Zoom? Ils peuvent pas ou ils veulent pas?
Je leur ai demandé aujourd'hui si ça posait un problème,
Ouais.
si on pouvait exceptionnellement utiliser Zoom particulièrement.
Ouais. Demande, hein, parce que c'est quand même, ça s'utilise quand même pas mal. Hein.
Ouais, et puis c'est beaucoup plus cher WebEx et en même temps, ça a l'air un peu plus compliqué. Je ne sais pas pourquoi.
Ah ouais.
Mais bon, on va voir. Donc là, je suis en contact avec les trois. J'ai une conference call avec la fête de Dallas cet après-midi. Demain avec Klaus Note. Et dès que j'ai tout ça, donc j'espère avoir l'invitation pour demain au plus tard ou jeudi matin et on invite.
Ok, super.
Mais avoir les gens, je pense, avoir les participants. Là, on a le gouverneur de la Banque centrale du Pakistan qui s'est inscrit là, il y a 2 minutes. Là.
Ok.
On a pas mal et beaucoup de gens de la Banque centrale de Thaïlande. Hein.
Ah ouais. Ah oui, la Banque de Thaïlande, elle est très, très active. Hein.
Ah ouais.
Très active. Elle a fait aussi un joli projet avec la Banque centrale du Hong Kong Monetary Authority.
Ah, intéressant.
Un très, très, très beau projet qu'elle a fait avec un de nos partenaires. Nous, on n'a pas participé, mais un de nos partenaires technologiques, R3,
ah oui, R3,
y a participé. Et c'est un très, très important projet, en fait, hein, surtout sur le cross-border. Un peu ce qu'on va essayer de faire maintenant avec la Banque de France. Donc, c'est pas mal ce projet. Donc, Thaïlande est très, très avancée. Nous, on fait beaucoup en Thaïlande. Pas avec la Banque centrale, malheureusement, mais avec les banques, etc., avec l'échange.
On va pouvoir l'avoir de nouveau, le gouverneur, parce qu'il était déjà venu à Madrid, tu te rappelles?
C'est vrai.
Ouais, non,
vrai, il était.
demandé, là, il ne pouvait pas, mais je pense que.
Il était à Madrid, c'est ça, oui. Bon. Attends, je vais peut-être baisser là le rideau. Enfin,
Okay.
C'est mieux? C'est mieux comme ça?
Ouais, écoute, en fait, hier, c'est marrant parce qu'on te voyait plus clairement. Vas-y.
Ah ouais. Ben,
Là,
j'étais dans une autre. C'est un peu sombre, hein?
Ouais.
Ah, ok. Bah, écoute, attends.
Tu me vois bien?
Moi, je te vois bien, ouais. C'est mieux comme ça?
Ouais, là, c'est pas mal, ouais.
Comme ça, c'est mieux?
Ouais.
C'est pas trop clair? Moi, je te vois bien, mais c'est pas trop clair là chez moi?
Moi, je te vois bien dans le carré, là, mais quand je te vois en entier, tu vois, avec la bibliothèque, tu vois, quand je te vois là en termes d'affichage,
Ouais.
tu sais, là, je te vois assez bien, mais quand je te vois en entier, je te vois un peu flou, tu vois.
Un peu flou, ouais.
Et
Bon.
vraiment, à mon avis, moi, je te vois, sinon, c'est le gouverneur, là, je vois bien la Banque centrale.
Ouais, le problème, j'ai trop de. C'est une salle assez bien éclairée ici.
Ah, mais c'est bien.
Mais bon,
Tu sais, on fait… Ah là, c'est mieux.
C'est mieux?
Ouais, là, je te vois bien, ouais.
Bon. Et il faut qu'on fasse donc, il faut qu'on fasse gaffe donc du chat, non?
Oui, toi, tu vas pouvoir
Qu'on
le voir,
observe.
hein, tu le vois, le chat, ouais, ouais.
Ouais.
De toute façon, tu sais, on aura 5 minutes, on dira, voilà, I have one or two key questions that is coming, tu crois pas?
Non, non, je crois pas. Il faut pas attendre, hein, parce qu'il y aura des questions déjà dès le départ, j'imagine.
Ouais. En fait, je
Ouais, il
remarque
faut
que…
s'y habituer, hein,
Ah
et
ouais,
c'est
ouais,
ça le.
ouais. Mais je pense que le webinar, en fait, il y a beaucoup plus de préparation ex ante que d'une conférence réelle, tu vois, parce que quand tu
Ah
fais
oui,
dans
c'est
une
clair.
conférence, même au Pérou, à Washington, tu es beaucoup plus stressé lors de la réunion, quand tu es sur place.
Ouais.
Mais après, tu vois, gérer… En fait, ici, c'est l'angoisse, c'est beaucoup plus que la vidéo ne fonctionne pas très bien, non?
Ben voilà.
Ouais,
Non,
bah,
non, c'est sûr,
bon.
hein.
Mais sinon, à
Et
part
on
ça,
peut.
je trouve ça assez sympa.
Voilà.
C'est une façon de garder les liens avec les gens.
Non, c'est vrai, c'est vrai. Le seul moyen, en fait, hein.
Ouais,
Parce que
absolument.
enfin, je ne crois pas. Tu crois que les réunions du fonds en octobre auront lieu?
Non, je pense pas.
Je crois. Non? Ouais.
Parce qu'il y a trop de
Hmm.
risques de, tu vois, que simplement quelques officiels viennent et d'autres ne décident de ne pas venir. Donc, tu
C'est
n'auras
vrai.
jamais les membres. Et puis, si tu as un ministre ou un gouverneur, il ne va pas voyager seul. Donc, même si on
Ouais.
limite les délégations, je pense que c'est extrêmement compliqué encore. Et vu la situation
Non, ouais,
aux
c'est vrai,
États-Unis,
c'est
je
vrai.
pense qu'ils vont peut-être préférer attendre. Tu vois.
Ok. Ah ouais, incroyable. Mais à Paris, déjà, les cafés sont ouverts, les restos,
Alors, hier, ils ont
les
donc,
écoles.
ça y est, ouvert donc, autant les terrasses qu'à l'intérieur. Il y a toujours, si tu
Hmm.
veux, les mesures barrières, les tables à 1 mètre, etc. Mais ce qui est très
Ouais.
sympa, c'est que le fait d'avoir mis des terrasses comme en Italie, tu sais, sur les places, un peu partout dans la ville,
Ouais.
ça donne une autre ambiance. Et comme il y a moins de monde, à cause du fait qu'il n'y ait pas de touristes, ça donne à la ville aussi un côté de nouveau à visage humain, tu vois, que c'est pas la
Ah
frénésie.
ouais.
Ouais, ouais, je trouve ça assez sympa en fait.
Ok.
Les gens ont l'air un peu
Très
plus
bien.
relax, tu sais, il y a un peu moins de tension en ville.
Très
Et de
bien.
plus en plus de
Tu sais,
petits
moi, je
espaces.
veux absolument déménager maintenant et aller vivre en France.
Ah bah écoute, ok, ce serait
À
cool.
partir de, à partir de septembre, plus ou moins, en fait. Parce que près de Nice, tu sais, Accenture a un grand centre de techno à Sophia Antipolis, qui se trouve entre Cannes et Nice.
Ah, c'est cool.
Ouais, et donc je voudrais me placer là parce que être proche des labs, comme ça, c'est quand même une fonction de recherche. Donc, ça me donne un peu plus de cadre de recherche et d'appui. Et ça me permet de vivre quand même peut-être une vie un peu plus agréable qu'à Londres, parce qu'à Londres, franchement, je ne vois pas de upside ici, hein, avec
Et
Covid.
ils seraient d'accord?
Oui, oui, tout à fait. Oui, oui.
Ah, ça reste top.
Je ne sais pas s'ils vont attendre le réaliser, mais en principe, ça devrait marcher. Donc, c'est ça un peu l'idée de partir ici au plus tard le 1er août et de peut-être de voyager un peu et d'être à Nice fixe au plus tard à partir du 1er octobre, plus ou moins, ou peut-être en septembre déjà.
Ah, ça serait top.
Pas mal.
Alors, tu crois qu'on commence la diffusion?
Ah oui,
Hein? 58
on
comme
a
ça.
2 minutes. C'est à toi, en fait,
Ah ouais,
d'ouvrir.
ouais, j'ouvre.
Ah oui.
Ah, tu vois, les gens commencent à rentrer.
OK.
po. Bakit ako nakatayo?
Hello?
That's okay.
Hello?
Yes, hello.
Oh, Governor, good morning. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. Yeah. Good morning to you.
Yes. So we should start in 1 minute if it is okay with you.
It's okay.
Yeah. And thank you very much for accepting our invitation to be part of this series.
It's a pleasure. It's my pleasure to be part of this workshop or webinar.
Good morning, Governor. Good afternoon. Sorry.
Good morning to you. Good afternoon here.
Okay, good morning and good afternoon to everyone. My name is Mark Cuson. I am the Executive Director of the Reinventing Bretton Woods Committee. And it is with a great pleasure today that we're going to welcome Governor Benjamin DIOKNO, the Governor of the Central Bank of Philippines. Good afternoon to you, Governor. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation to participate to the series that we launched last April during the IMF Spring Meeting, the World Economic Transform, that we have been organizing in partnership with Accenture. And I would like here to thank Ousmane Mendeng and all his colleagues for supporting this initiative. Of course, for many years, we have been hosting numerous conferences with central banks, policymakers to find ways to improve the global financial architecture. Unfortunately, we cannot meet face to face, but hopefully we'll have this opportunity in the near future. But at least, digital and technology can help us, to bridge that gap. Today, the way we would like, if you agree, to engage in our conversations will be in two parts. I will be asking one or two questions related to the policy responses that has been implemented in your country, in the Philippines, with this major challenge for mankind with the pandemic. What has been the policy response in terms of monetary and fiscal policy? What do you see are the challenges ahead for your country? And another question that I will be more devoted to the way we can improve the global financial architecture. As you saw, emerging market as a whole, we're dealing first with a first episode of capital outflow. And now we saw a lot of emerging markets who have been able to borrow again on international capital markets. That maybe raises questions that clearly the IMF is at the center of the global financial safety net in the international financial system, but also that maybe there are ways maybe to improve this global financial architecture. Should the IMF become an international lender of last resort, or should central bank digital currencies or digital money can be also a new instrument for emerging markets? The other conversation that we will have with you will be moderated by Ousmane Mendeng. The topics about central bank digital currencies, financial inclusions, payment systems. Of course, your country is a major recipient of remittances. So anything that we can do to improve payment system is clearly quite important. So Governor, my first question is for you. I hope that you and all your staff are also well. This is very important in these current circumstances. But let me ask you, what has been clearly the major policy response from your country in terms of economic, monetary and fiscal policy? What has been the impact? And do you think you need to do more? Governor, please, I give you the floor.
Yes, good day, everyone. And give me the opportunity first to make some preliminary statement. In the process, I can talk about the measures that we have undertaken at this time. Okay, so thank you for this opportunity to participate in a discussion on digital currencies, which is clearly a development that will redefine the nature of work in central banking globally. COVID-19 pandemic is another disruptor that is redefining work, not only here in the Central Bank of the Philippines and other sectors of our economy, but across the globe. We are fortunate that we entered the COVID-19 pandemic from a position of strength. The country's track record of prudent policymaking has led to a strong external position, healthy public finances, and robust macroeconomic performance in recent years. The country's strong fundamentals has provided a degree of resilience to mitigate the impact of the pandemic. The BSP, or the central bank's ample monetary policy space, has allowed us to undertake aggressive measures to ensure adequate domestic liquidity and credit in the financial system. These measures include the following. First, a cumulative 125 basis point cut in the monetary policy rate. Second, a 200 basis point cut in the reserve requirement ratios of universal and commercial banks, as well as non-bank financial institutions with qualified banking functions. Third, we allowed new loans to micro, small, and medium enterprises as alternative compliance to the reserve requirements. Fourth, purchases of government securities in the secondary market. Fifth, a 300 billion peso, or about US $5 billion, repurchase agreement with the Bureau of Treasury. The BSP also deployed regulatory relief measures to help financial institutions manage the debt, ease impact on their balance sheets, and encourage banks to pass on the relief to their own customers and borrowers. Some of these measures include, number one, grant of temporary regulatory and rediscounting relief measures to BSP supervised financial institutions. Number two, we incentivize the lending to micro, small, and medium enterprises by counting MSME loans as part of the bank's compliance with the reserve requirement. And third, time-bound relaxation of various regulations pertaining to compliance reporting, calculation of penalties on required reserves, and single borrower limits, among others. In undertaking these liquidity and credit-enhancing measures, the BSP worked closely with the fiscal authorities as well as Congress, because, as you know fully well, the scale and uncertainty of this pandemic requires a whole of government approach. The latest economic forecasts point to a U-shaped recovery for the Philippines as the monetary and fiscal measures start to gain traction. Inflation is not seen to be a cause of concern, as it is projected to fall within the government's target range of 2 to 4% as a result of low oil prices and global recession. Having said that, we are preparing to transition to the new economy involving, as I said, the new nature of work. Even before the coronavirus pandemic, the central bank has been pushing for financial digitization in its various forms. Our goal was to shift from a cash-heavy to a cash-light society. Our other goal is to convert all financial transactions, both in volume and in value, from cash into electronic form by 2023. Now, with the pandemic, I'm confident that we can achieve both goals sooner. Thank you, and I'm now willing to answer your questions.
Thank you, Governor, for this introductory remark. So my first questions, what do you see in terms of macroeconomic prospect, the next challenge? Will you be able to do more in case you see scenario that might lead to more recessions? Are there other policy tools that you will have at your disposal to make sure that more will be necessary?
I think at the moment we still have a lot of policy tools. Our policy rate right now is positive 2.75%. We still have a very high reserve requirement. Our reserve requirement right now is around 12%, so we have a lot of elbow room, and so we also can, in fact, enter into a repo arrangement with the government, maybe another 240 billion pesos. So we still have a lot of policy tools.
Governor, you mentioned at the beginning resilience. And when I think about resilience of any domestic economy, it seems that this is about building buffers. And before this crisis, a lot of emerging markets build buffers, meaning building more foreign exchange reserve, using macroprudential tools, using foreign exchange intervention. Do you see that at the global level, something needs to be done also? We saw that the IMF has been providing flexible credit line to some of the emerging markets. We saw that the IMF is clearly at the center of the global financial safety net. Do you see that the way to improve the global financial system today? Of course, this is early question, but as we are still dealing with the pandemic and of course all the consequences of it. But in a post-virus order, do you think that something more will need to be done here at a global level for the global financial system? Because at the end, most of the emerging markets are dependent of hard currencies. Is there a way here to improve the global financial architecture further to this episode of this crisis?
Good, you asked the question. I think we have actually prepared our banking industry well, facing this pandemic. I'm new to my job, and I used to say that we are we're stricter than the Basel requirements, and we have a lot of buffers, and that has actually prepared our banking industry well. We have a CAR, which is around 15 to 16%, when in fact the requirement of our own central bank is 10%, and the Basel requirement is 8%. So we have prepared. We have enough buffers for our banks to go through this pandemic. Of course, we're not saying that we might have some problems down the road, depending on how long this crisis ends. So, but I think the Bank International Settlement has actually prepared us as well. We have complied. We have complied with most of the recommendations, and so we're confident that our banking industry is prepared for this crisis. Of course, in a crisis like this, as in many other crises, the major issue is liquidity. You have to make sure that there's liquidity in the system, and that we did by doing a lot of measures that I mentioned earlier. In fact, we estimate that the cumulative effect of our measures would release something like 1.2 trillion pesos into the system, and that's equivalent to more than 6% of GDP. Just the monetary side. There's not counting the fiscal side.
Very good. Why don't we shift to the discussions that we wanted to have with you related to digital money? And let me give now the floor to Usman. Usman, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Governor, and to Mark for organizing this webinar. Accenture has been very active working with several central banks on the potential implementation of central bank digital currency, CBDC. You mentioned earlier that you are trying to make the Philippines a cash-free or cash-light society by 2023. The crisis obviously has shown the persistent deficiencies in access to money, in the distribution of liquidity. How do you sense has COVID-19 brought forward the debate for central banks to adopt digital currencies?
Well, not necessarily digital currency, but the use of the technology to as a substitute for cash, right? The digital payment. I've seen that it has actually moved five times faster compared to before the crisis. So I'm hopeful that we'll, as I said, our target initially was to convert all transactions in value and in volume by 50% by 2023. I think we might accomplish that much sooner. Now on digital currency, I think we have to embrace digital currency, especially in the light of the pandemic. But as long as it's issued by the central bank, okay, central bank issued digital currency is fine with me. What I'm opposed is the one that was initially brought up by Facebook, the Libra, which is not issued by the central bank. So I think looking at the experiences of other countries, we might eventually.
Usman? Hello? Hello? Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Very sorry. I must have lost my audio.
All right.
Okay. Apologies, Governor. So I didn't hear the last bit, but you mentioned Libra, and of course many central banks. I think the Libra Association has changed the debate about digital currencies and certainly has brought much more energy into giving considerations for moving towards digital currencies. The role of central banks in providing a currency is ambiguous. I mean, one could argue, do central banks need to play an active role in providing currencies, or should it be left to the private sector, like Libra or other digital means of conducting payment? How do you see the role for central banks to facilitating the digitalization in payments?
Well, we are actually pushing forward the digitalization of payments in the Philippines, and we have two instruments. One is PesoNet, the other one is InstaPay. These are small amounts and large amounts. And during the pandemic, I saw the tremendous increase in the use of digital payments, and I think that's where we're going to go in the future. As long as the currency, digital currency, is issued by the central bank, I have no quarrel with that.
I see. And on financial inclusion, the Philippines has a large proportion of unbanked. According to Philippine data, only the number of households with a bank account is only 2 out of 10, and only 37% of cities and municipalities have actually a banking office. Now, the BSP has supported the development of e-money as a safe medium of payment and a broader vision for digital financial inclusion. There are now 27 e-money issuers in the Philippines. Should financial inclusion be driven by the central bank, or should it be more driven by private initiatives like e-currency issuers?
It is in our mandate. The law says that the provision of an efficient, safe digital payment is part of our mandate. but we are willing to do this of course, in coordination with the private sector. We need the private sector to push this forward, the digital payment system. The need for, you cited the number of municipalities with banking office. Under the new system, under digital, in the digital age, you don't really need a bank office in a particular municipality, right? So that's not a useful metric, for example, of the extent of financial inclusion. I think the number cited, 2 out of 10 with bank account, that's no longer the case. I think we have been coordinating with the government, the private sector, the overseas Filipino workers, the armed forces, etc. And I think we are now at the level of maybe around 30 to 40% of our adult population with a bank account.
Okay. I'd like to ask you about the remittances. Obviously, the Philippines is sending about, Filipino external overseas workers sent about $30 billion per year home. So that's about 7.5% of GDP. So the remittances are one of the largest sort of capital flows for the Philippines. The big tech firms have entered this space, in particular to facilitate payments like Grab, and they offer, you know, mobile payment facilities. Facebook has also offered its services now through a new platform in cooperation with mobile money operators. How do you see the role of central bank money for remittances in the Philippines?
Yes, we encourage the use of digital payment for transmitting remittances from abroad, and because the current system is very expensive, and so we have encouraged systems like Alipay and other providers to provide the digital payment. So in fact, we have right now, we have what is called QR code PH, because there are so many QR codes existing in the country. So we asked them for the purpose of interoperability that we should adopt just one QR code, and that's QR code PH. And that will be put on stream by July of this year. That's also being supervised by the central bank. As I said, the law says that the Central Bank of the Philippines shall be in charge of this kind of payments, safe, efficient, and robust payment system. And so we're tapping the private sector so that we can deliver services, especially remittances, most efficiently and at least cost.
I'd like to ask you one more question regarding large value payments. In particular, the idea we have discussed with several central banks in the region to facilitate international exchange and international transactions settled in local currencies, rather than relying on third-party currencies, as is prevalent in Asia at the moment. How do you see the role for CBDC to facilitate international exchange between countries? Do you see a special role there that central banks, obviously providing a riskless medium, could play a special role to facilitate financial integration in the region?
You know, we are discussing that within the ASEAN region, the interoperability, and we exchange notes, and maybe one of these days it will come to fruition that the central banks would have a system that is operable within the ASEAN region. And these are spearheaded by Singapore, Indonesia, and Thailand, and the Philippines, of course.
Very good. Mark, we have a number of questions on the Q&A. Should we?
Yes, absolutely.
Would you like to go?
Yeah, maybe we can ask if Governor agree, one or two questions we are receiving from our participants, if I may. One, did the Philippines suffer at some point of the crisis from a dollar credit crunch, further to its high exposure to dollar debt and currency mismatch? And are you satisfied of the swap opened by the Fed to your central bank?
Well, first of all, on the swap, we said we don't need it. We're one country. You don't put all the emerging economies into one basket. We can differentiate the Philippines from the general mood. First of all, we have a hefty gross international reserves. Right now, as of March, we have $90 billion US, and I think by year end it will be around $95 billion US. So we're okay in terms of gross international reserves.
Yeah.
We will end up with a balance of payment surplus, and our peso is very strong. In fact, it's one of the strongest currencies in this part of the world and among its peers. So next to Japan and Taiwan. Okay, so we don't have the usual problem. I know that in the past we ran out of dollars to pay our debt. Not this time. Okay, in the past there's we experienced depreciation of the currency. Not this time, right? So we don't have these problems this time.
Very good. We have another couple of questions, if I may, Governor. We have a very nice group of participants, by the way, and I take this opportunity to thank all of them to join us today. Governor, one question. How, in your view, could central bank digital currency impact monetary policy as well as assist in deepening financial inclusion? Will the central bank considering issue a CBDC, and when might it happen?
We are seriously considering it. We're looking at the experiences of other countries, and as I said, this is consistent with our desire to have a cash-light society rather than a cash-heavy society. Yeah. And given the pandemic, this will also it's in accordance with the health protocol, right? The use of paper money is kind of risky at this time, right?
Usman, you want to pick up all the questions related to the things that are coming up?
Yes, I'd like to go back to the international monetary system. We have a question here regarding an SDR allocation. This has been debated quite a bit, whether the IMF should attempt another SDR allocation to bring more liquidity into the system. There is some controversy regarding the effectiveness that such allocation would have. What do you think for the Philippines? Would an SDR allocation make sense? Do you think it's something that should be pursued by the international community?
Well, I think the SDR allocation has really not taken off, right? There was a lot of hope that it will be a major currency for IMF members, but in my own sense is that it does not live up to the expectation.
And therefore you think pursuing it at this stage may not help much to manage international liquidity?
Or maybe they could enhance it. I don't know, but that's up to maybe Kristalina and her staff.
Very good, very good. Look, I'm going through the question. We have many questions. I'm trying to. Could we go back to the question of digital currency for the central bank? You mentioned that that in principle the central bank is interested, is looking at experiences abroad. As you know, very few countries have, or no country actually has adopted a CBDC. Accenture is helping now the Central Bank of Sweden to implement the e-krona, a CBDC, in a test environment. This is for retail, to be used in retail transactions. Do you think, when thinking about a when thinking about a CBDC, would you rather consider a CBDC for retail transactions, or do you think you would rather focus on wholesale transactions, say security settlement, foreign exchange? Where do you see the priorities if you were to adopt it?
I think initially with the wholesale transactions rather than retail transactions.
And the motivation here, it's a more controlled environment, or do you simply, and the special role of central bank money for wholesale is?
That's right. So I think initially we'll have to deal with maybe all government agencies or all commercial banks and the big corporations initially.
That's. And could I ask you in that context, another question here we have is one question of whether within the context of international exchange, the Philippines may eventually accept circulation of a foreign country CBDC in the economy. Is that something you have contemplated, or you would consider?
We're thinking about it. Right now, we accept Chinese yuan and Japanese yen and US dollars, all sorts of currency. But we'll think about it. But we have to be very careful. As you know, there's some risk involved in this kind of major endeavors.
Governor, there is a question here. I shift a little, Usman, so we have a variety of questions here from one of our participants. What role the central bank can play to promote climate finance and green finance, and how has COVID impacting this drive?
Well, sustainability, that's also a mandate of the central bank.
Yeah.
And on green financing, we have initially invested in green bonds, especially with BIS. And so that's within our mandate. And we, as a country that is visited by many typhoons and calamities globally, we are interested in this kind of activity.
Usman, you...
Uh-huh.
Can
you hear me?
Looking at questions. Yeah, please.
Okay, very sorry. No, if you allow me to further go to the questions that have been asked here by the public in the Q&A. In terms of next steps, if you were to adopt a CBDC, many central banks have looked towards doing a pilot in order to test how a CBDC would operate as sort of the intermediate step towards an actual implementation. Is that something the central bank has been contemplated in the past to look either on its own or in cooperation with another central bank at the implementation of a pilot? A little bit, as you know, the Bank of Thailand had been very active together with HKMA in a common project. Is there something the Philippines is looking at?
Yes, we don't. Well, the right approach really is have a test pilot, and then usually we ask for technical assistance from other countries, like maybe USAID or maybe BIS, and then we try to develop it for quite some time before we even adopt the new technology. So we go through that process.
And I mentioned there's another question here. I mentioned Libra earlier. Here's a question: would you allow Libra to issue a domestic currency denominated stablecoin in the Philippines? So Libra, as you know, at the moment is considering issuing, I think, 5 currencies: a dollar denominated, Sing dollar denominated, sterling, yen, and euro. Would you allow Philippine peso denominated stablecoin issued by Libra to circulate in the Philippines?
Now we'll start first with central bank issued currency rather than a private sector issued currency in the Philippines.
Very good.
Very good. Yeah.
I'm sorting through.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Go ahead.
No. Governor, I mean, maybe a reflections, more in terms of narrative for the day after, and when we discuss, the aftermath of this crisis and this pandemic. What might be the lesson that you will learn as a central bank governor? You started your opening remark by talking about resilience. And we saw also more and more that policymakers around the world talk about strategic autonomy, sovereignty. We see more and more maybe disruption with global value chain. In thinking, the day after, what might be for you as a central bank governor when you look at global finance and the stability of the global financial system? What will be the lessons that you are going to learn from this crisis as a central bank governor? And will you see a major change moving forward, as maybe we might see and concerns that some people say that maybe COVID-19 might trigger the beginning of the end of deglobalization? Will you share that assessment, or you believe globalization is here to stay, or we will continue to have the opening of capital flow trade, or you would see that we go to a more fragmented global financial system?
Well, I love to say that this crisis is unprecedented, yeah. And so that we should not let this once in a lifetime crisis go to waste. We should learn from it, and the lessons learned is that there's a high payoff if you prepare the economy well. And I think, as I mentioned earlier, the crisis hit us at a time when we are prepared for it. We have created lots of buffers. We have, as I said, foreign exchange. Our foreign exchange position is very, very sound. Our currency is very strong. And so there's no substitute for preparing well. Now, moving forward, I think we should try to even improve on what we have done, on what the lessons, being prepared. We have to develop, we have to think of other measures that will strengthen the Philippines as an investment destination. A recent issue of The Economist ranked the Philippines 6th in terms of fiscal strength as a result of this pandemic. Out of the 66 emerging economies, the Philippines was ranked number 6 in terms of financial strength. So that is a good way of looking at it. We're strong right now, but we can be stronger.
And to follow up on this question, do you think that COVID has induced a new spirit of cooperation amongst the Asian countries? Is there maybe a new willingness to become more proactive, pushing forward the integration agenda that has been around ASEAN for a long time and other Asian sort of cooperation efforts?
First, we have worked as one. We call it government as a whole approach. But at the same time, we continue to confer with our colleagues in the region. We have this kind of webinars with the governors of Thailand and Indonesia and Singapore, and so we continue to consult with them and where they are, and so we are closer now as a result of this pandemic.
Very good. So you would be optimistic that the pandemic is leading to more integration rather than isolation? Would that be your conclusion so far?
Integration in this region, yes. I don't know about the whole world, because there are now forces that say that they should develop their own. Maybe they're moving away from globalization. I hope not, because I'm a firm believer in globalization. It's welfare enhancing, and I think despite the pandemic, I think we should push for globalization.
Very good. Usman, do you have a last questions, or we can?
Well, I think if I could just come back once more to the idea of a central bank digital currency, and this is only to maybe, if you allow, could share with us again your vision as to where do you think we will be in, say, in 5 years. You had the cash light objective in 2023. If you look beyond that, where do you think the role, what do you think the role of digital currencies will be in, say, by 2025 for the Philippines and maybe for your neighboring countries?
By 2025, we have adopted that system. I'm confident we can adopt that system. It's consistent with our desire to have a cash light society. We can save a lot of money by not printing money, you know. That's one motivation, of course.
Very good.
Very good. Very good, Governor. Well, first, thank you very much for joining us today for this conversation. It was a great pleasure. We will, in 1 week time, on June 25th, welcome some of your other colleagues, the President of the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas, President Robert Kaplan, Governor of the Dutch Central Bank, Governor Clark Snoot, and the member of the Executive Board of the European Central Bank, Yves Mersch, who will be joining for our next webinar. We will be sending invitations to participants and our network. And we'll be happy, of course, if your time allow, you know, we will, of course, inviting you. I think it's going to be discussions really a lot related to the current policy response from the advanced countries and what might be the consequences when we start to think about the evolution of the global economy. Governor, thanks again. It was a great pleasure to cooperate with you and your colleagues. Wish you the best, good health for you and colleagues and family. And hopefully we will have a chance to cooperate together again and to meet face to face. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank
Keep
you
well
very much,
and
Governor.
stay.
Thank you. Thanks. Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.